And welcome back to Square Off. Congress has a long history of never failing to let the Dreamers down. The first bill that gave us the name Dreamers, the DREAM Act of 2001, got nowhere. Several other versions have been introduced over the last 16 years. None have reached the president's desk. So why would this time be different? Going to get to that in a sec. I want to start where we ended the last segment. Roy, you differ with Constantine on what this means for Republicans next year.
Yeah, I differ because, for example, you're going to have Senator Flake, who's going to be facing a primary from the right. And so he, in the past, has shown support for the DREAM Act and comprehensive immigration reform. So obviously he's going to be attacked from the right for those positions. And then I think any other Republican who's in a swing district, like Congresswoman McSally, is going to have to, also defend that decision. And so they're going to have a tough time. And we're going to see now over the next 6 months whether Congress can get things done. But as you alluded to, the DREAM Act has not gotten done in over 10 years. And the reason for that is it always gets attached to something else related to immigration, like enforcement, and that's where everything sort of breaks down.
And just to stay with the politics part of it, somebody sitting in this chair a couple weeks ago mentioned that, every time Republicans do this, DACA, pardoning Joe Arpaio, it's a great get out the vote move for Latinos. Because Latino vote traditionally in midterms is pretty depressed.
It's pretty low. And so the Arpaio decision, I think, is going to drive Latinos out. And I think this should as well. Because again, you've got people whose lives are at stake. And the only way that we're going to be able to help them, in my view, is to get Democrats elected to Congress to stop President Trump.
So Constantine, let's go to Congress. Help us think about Congress and how it's looking at this, Republicans in particular, how they look at what President Trump wants them to do now versus what they want to do as a whole when it comes to immigration.
Part of the problem is I don't think they know what Trump wants them to do. And that's where Trump could do a better job, is to actually say, here's actually what I'm looking for, which would help the process along. He's going to leave them to kind of come up with something on their own and sit back. And I don't know if that's not particularly helpful.
If left to their own devices, what would they do?
It'll vary. Again, I think there's a certain number who just want amnesty, period. And so they'll just be pushing for something that's clean. A lot of other folks, I think, are going to try to take the opportunity to say, let's do something that fixes multiple problems at once. Chain migration is an issue because it's not just a question of 700,000 DACA recipients. You legalize 700,000 DACA recipients, and then there are millions of people who come behind because now they get to practice the chain migration and legalize, for instance, the parents who actually brought them here. So we're told, let's not punish the people whose fault it wasn't, but if you legalize them and allow them to reward the people that broke the laws that brought them here, that's a problem. So the idea that the DREAM Act gets caught up when we talk enforcement, we should also be talking enforcement and border security and E-Verify and a lot of other things that if you put them all together and you said we're going to, because let's say if we say don't punish the people whose fault it wasn't, implicit in that is you should hold responsible and punish those whose fault it was. So put it all together, make one big solution that makes everybody happy. But I think just the pure amnesty push is going to be too strong. I don't think they can get it done.
Do you see them doing a clean DREAM Act?
I think it's going to be very difficult. I disagree with a lot of what you just said because, again, what we're talking about for the DREAM Act are individuals who are here as no fault of their own, that have been here for most of their lives. And, you can do one or the other or both, but you can certainly help these people that are affected by the DREAM Act and then also address perhaps their parents, their family members, the other people that are here that are undocumented. It's not an impossibility to work at these things at once, but in the immediate term, President Trump has put this 6-month, deadline, and so we need to get the DREAM Act done.
President Trump, the new President Trump we saw toward the end of the week, Donald, Nancy, and Chuck. Could that group help get a DREAM Act through if you get Democrats on board with moderate Republicans in the House?
Well, I think it kind of depends on whether they're going to use the Hastert rule or not, and whether they're going to allow basically legislation to hit the floor of the House with the majority of Republicans probably being opposed. And we're talking about a standalone DREAM Act bill. But if they were to put it on the floor of the House, I think it would pass because all the Democrats are going to support it. And I think secretly many Republicans really support it and will probably getting there. They probably will vote for it. So
you agree with that, Constantine?
Yeah, if Trump pushes for it, I think he could probably get it. But of course, he campaigned against it. So that puts him in sort of an uncomfortable position.
It sure does, but he's found a way to wriggle out in the past, hasn't he? All right, Roy Herrera, Constantine Carrard, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.